arrived in the Maryland colony in 1660. You can see the variety of ways that they spelled the last name. So as the folks at Pecos House like to say, he is not Italian, that he is of English stock, and he made his fortune marrying his master's widow. Daniel Delaney the Elder. Now, Daniel Delaney the Elder was the stepfather of William Pecos' first wife. And he was an indenture. He immigrated to the Maryland colony, when he was 18 years old, and then he became an indenture to Colonel George Plater in his land development because he was an investor. This is where he made his money. He is credited with founding Frederick, Maryland, and when he died on December 5th, 1753 in Annapolis, at the time of his death, he owned 47 million acres of land. This was one rich guy. Benjamin Franklin, under the title of apprentice, was an indenture. Born in 1706, his 9-year apprenticeship with his brother, he didn't stay for the 9 years because his brother was so cruel that he illegally fled. He was actually, his father contracted him to his brother as an apprentice. But he left, set up shop in Philadelphia, and the rest is history. Another famous redemption. These are going to be some people who really did something worthwhile, but you may not be familiar with their names. He's one of the 6 signers of the Declaration of Independence from New Hampshire. Born in Ireland, his family came to Maine in 1717 as redemptioners. Next. George Taylor. Not sure of the year of his birth, but he did come from Ireland to Pennsylvania as an indenture to Samuel Savage, ironmaster. He married his late master's widow, took over the forge, and that's where he made his fortune. And he was a signer of the Declaration of Independence for Pennsylvania. Here's a local fella, Charles Thompson. He came to America with his father and 2 brothers. His father died at sea. The boys were separated. He was contracted by a blacksmith and went through his indenture. He was essentially considered the Prime Minister of the United States in foreign affairs during the finalizing of the Articles of Confederation in 1777, and he also designed the Great Seal of the United States. And he started out as an indenture. Okay, we know William Buckland, born in Oxford, at 21, brought to Virginia as an indenture to Thomas Mason, brother of George Mason. Now his 2 most notable works are Gunston Hall and Hammond Harwood House. He was also a joiner on Chase Lloyd, but all of his works are the following. Gunston Hall, which is in Fairfax County, Virginia. The courthouse in Prince William County, which is no longer there. Mount Airy in Richmond County, it's no longer there, but he had built that. The Hinson Rheingold House in Chestertown, and the Chase Lloyd House here in Annapolis. Here's Matthew Lyon. He had the distinction of being the first member to have an ethics violation charge filed against him when he was accused of gross indecency for spitting in Roger Griswold's face. Griswold was a congressman from Connecticut who had insulted Lyon, calling him a scoundrel, which at the time was considered profanity. So words change.
Sure.
He also had the distinction of the only person to be elected to Congress while he was in jail. On October 10, 1798, he was found guilty of sedition in violation of the Alien and Sedition Acts, which prohibited malicious writing of the American government as a whole, or of the houses of Congress, or of the President. Lyon was the first person to be put on trial for violating the acts on charges of criticizing Federalist President John Adams for his pretense of going to war against France. I wonder how many reporters today would end up in jail for the same things. Next. Andrew Johnson, you've heard of him. He started out as an indenture. He became president when Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. Millard Fillmore, president. He was a vice president, and he replaced Zachary Taylor. He also, his father indentured him to a clothmaker at age 14. And it was so terrible that he left after 4 months to apprentice to another clothmaker. And of course, then, the last one we have. Annabella Sneed, works for the baker. My term was 5 years. You can see all my skills and the fact I'm unmarried. And I was 27 at the time of my indenture. Now, indenture is, in summary, the historical practice of contracting individuals to work for a fixed period of time, period, working for an amount of time. It's typically 3 to 7 in exchange for certain necessities, and both men and women were indentured, often under 21, indentured to, or destined to become farmhands, and so on and so forth. Now, this picture, by the way, is called The Kitchen Maid by Jean Simeon Chardin, Chardin. And Chardin did, by the way, those of you ladies who are always interested in clothing and this and that, and where's your apron, and Chardin did a ton of paintings, so if you Google him and look at images, you're going to get a lot of information. Typically, the father of the person or persons to become the indenture made the arrangements with the ship's captain by signing the legal papers, which seldom included monetary consideration. It means the father didn't get anything for it. But they believed that they were putting their child into someone's better hands. And these are my references. I thank you. And I do have the books, in case you're interested. I brought books with me and a couple of documents, which you don't get white papers.
Have you ever seen me do my mower for